Japanese word shiki has a lot of meaning, probably more than 20, like, the time to die, or four seasons, a ceremony, or conducting an orchestra, and the colors. So it's got a lot of meanings, but the main themes for the album are time to die and four seasons. Because now I am 52, and now unfortunately, death is something real right now, because I have been dealing with death as a topic, but when you are 20 or 30, death is something fictional. It is scary, but it's like a horror movie. But when you are over 50, unfortunately, some of your friends start dying, and I just lost my dad this July. So
Sorry to hear.
yeah. So at this time, I wanted to express my naked feelings about my fear of death. So the biggest topic is time to die. And as for seasons, so if our lives have four seasons, so being 52, it's like a late autumn. So now very soon the winter is coming. And after winter, of course, spring will not come. So the album is completely about my fear of getting old and fear of death. So that's why I named the this album Shiki. And also Shiki means a personal note. So this implies this is an album which is this is very, very personal album to me. So there are several meanings, but it's a time to die, four seasons, and it's a personal note. Those three are the biggest meaning of the title. Because as I said, I wanted to express my naked feeling. I wanted to express my fear of death as straightforwardly and honestly as possible. So that's why I thought I had to use my own language, because if I use English, this is not 100% naked. And also one of the triggers that I chose this topic was the and Japanese traditional poem written about 800 or 900 years ago. So actually the artwork, cover artwork, is a visualization of the poem,
Okay.
where where an old man watches cherry blossom being blown away by the strong wind in a strong spring storm. So that scene describes, the cherry blossom is of course very beautiful, but it is also a symbol of fragility in Japan, because the cherry blossom go away very quickly, like in a week or in 3 or 4 days. So it implies your heyday is very short. So, and I thought it was very interesting that somebody from 800 years ago felt exactly the same as we do now. So, an old man identifies the petals in the wind with himself, who has to die very soon. So, yeah, the technology has developed a lot over these 800 or 900 years. And now we have the internet, now we have the AI, but still we have to have a fear of death. It never changes. I thought it was a very interesting thing. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I used the Japanese for this album. I wanted to make an album very Japanese, both musically and the lyrically. The biggest difference is that the feature of the Japanese is that every letter has vowel. So I think the English is a very rhythmic language that fits rock music very well. Probably rock was born from in English, because it's a very rhythmic music, and the English is a very rhythmic language, so they fit together very well. But on the other hand, Japanese is not rhythmic at all, because all the letters has the vowels. So it's rather melodic languages, because we tell the meaning by intonation rather than an accent.
Okay.
So in that sense, it's quite different to sing in Japanese for music like, black metal or thrash metal, because, the extreme metal is a very, very rhythmic music. So putting a Japanese lyrics on it it's a bit difficult. It's quite different, I guess. Oh, it's a newly drawn by
Oh,
an
okay.
artist from the US. So I explained the about the poem I told you. So and yeah, he did a perfect visualization of the scene of the poem. So it's exactly describes the Japanese poem written about 800 and 900 years ago. So I guess it's very it's beautiful, but at the same time, it is a very sad and brutal artwork that shows your later life. You know, sometimes your later life can be very, very brutal for everybody. So it's one of the concept of Psy, because we always try to mix the beauty and the ugliness both
Mhm.
in a yeah in music too. So I think it is a very good artwork to represent what we have been doing musically, I guess. Artist was aware of the artwork for if that art. Maybe he might have Googled it, but I didn't tell anything about infidel art. I just told him the story of the poem. And of course, I noticed the similarity between infidel art one and the new one when the sketch came to me. But well, I thought it was a good idea to have some nod to our old work. So I just left it to be, but it was not intentional. At least not my intention. Well, yeah, because I have a two biggest musical background. Because I started playing the classical piano at the age of 4 because my mother was a classical piano teacher. So the
Okay.
classical music is one of the biggest musical background of mine. Then I started getting into heavy metal, thrash metal things when I was a teenager. So heavy metal and classical music are the two biggest backgrounds of mine. So when I started Psy, I wanted to mix those two two things, classical music and heavy metal. But then I wanted to, you know, make some scary music, like in the vein of the horror soundtracks. Then, but of course, I couldn't find a book about, like on how to write a scary book or anything like that. Maybe now you can Google it on the internet and you can find a way to write the scary music. But back then, of course, I didn't have any information. So I researched and noticed that a lot of horror soundtracks had the 20th century's classical music, so-called avant-garde classical music. Those soundtracks have the works from the 20th century's classical music. So I started studying the theory for, you know, the avant-garde music to just to write the scary music. So then from that point, I started learning a lot, like in free jazz and jazz, rock and pop and everything. So, just mixing the genre is not my purpose. It's just a result. I always, want to choose the best way to express my feeling. Sometimes it is a heavy distorted guitar. Sometimes it is a classical music or solo piano. I just always choose something that is the best on my musical palette. So yeah, that's why I know I combine a lot of different things in size music. But at the same time, people may think using saxophone is something unusual in heavy metal or at least in black metal. But at the same time, saxophone is a very, very basic instrument if you have a bigger picture, like in a rock music. In the 50s, saxophone is a rather basic instrument in rock and roll band in the 50s. And what we are doing, like using some Indian instruments like sitar or tabla, those things were already done in the 60s, like by the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. So it's what we're doing is nothing new. It's nothing avant-garde. It's all tried and done 50 years ago. So I sometimes think we are rather conservative bands.
Oh,
If you look at the rock music. Oh yeah, mostly the thrash metal from the 80s, like Venom, Celtic Frost, Voivod. Probably these three bands were and still are the biggest inspiration on side. I don't know if of course, all those covers are great. Eliran and both Eliran and Costin are genius. They always have the cover which in the way I exactly wanted it to be. So they are perfectly, they're so all of them are perfect. But if I have to pick up the one, I have to pick up the one for Shiki because you know Shiki is you know as I said, it is a expression of my naked feeling because for other albums I always try to write some stories like most of them are rather fictional things, but Shiki is a big exception. It is my honest feelings. It is a naked feeling of mine, and the artwork is is based on my fear of death. Of course, it is based on the old poem, but it is about my fear of death. So I have a very close feeling to the artwork of Shiki for sure. Dare to Despair was insanity. And actually, the artwork is strictly based on the old advertisement from the 60s in Japan. What do you say? Psycho? Well, I must Google the word. Just wait a moment. Yep. Psychotropic. So it's an advertisement for psychotropic from the 60s and 70s. So there are a lot of crazy and scary advertisement from 60s and 70s. So I sent some photos of the old advertisement to Eriran, and he picked up one of them, and he wrote the artwork based on one of them. So yeah, it looks like a happy woman watering. A closer look, you notice a lot of strange things because the plants are already dead, and some strange shadow is in her room. So it is about insanity. So because insanity is not sometimes it is not obvious because sometimes it's very usual the murderers are nice people very superficially. So the real insanity is not something obvious. That's the message of the artwork of that cover. So even if it looks very normal at the first glance, it has a lot of dark things behind it. It's like no, these days, so people are posting what they eat or where they go on Instagram or Facebook. But I think it's kind of crazy thing it is because actually nobody cares what you eat, nobody cares where you go. But so they try to show people how happy they are, but in many cases, actually they are not. They are not happy, so they want to pretend they are happy. So I think it's the biggest insanity in this world of the 21st century. So yeah, the artwork of the Air to Despair is like that. They look happy at the first glance, but it is not. You can see a lot of strange things behind it. That's the message. Oh, yes, just selling the psychotropic, the some like antidepressive, and then you can find the one which Eriram was based on. It's almost the same. Yeah. Well, yeah, because yeah, I just hope you enjoy our new album, Shiki, because Shiki is an album which only 50-year-old me could make. I don't think I could make it when I was 20 or 30 or even 40. And I have been wondering what is the meaning in making an extreme metal album at the age of 50? Because, thrash metal was born as a music for young people in the 80s. So I always wonder what is the point in making an album like that when I am 50? But I think it is, the Shiki is probably an answer to my own question. So because that is album which only 50-year-old could make. So I don't know how the younger teenager or younger people feel listening to this album. But well, I'm pretty much satisfied with how it turned out to be. Yeah, so that's what I meant. I didn't want to pretend to be young to make an extreme album for people in the 50s, I guess. So,
hey folks, thanks for watching this podcast. If you enjoyed this interview, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friend, your family, and your cat, and stay awesome. Don't forget to check out our store at www.headingmusicartwork.com. Ciao for now. Preview.